Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Kurt Leavins. Welcome, Kurt.
Hey, Dave, I wonder how the faithful felt about that Mike Smith-esque end to the game in Nashville tonight.
I think they felt, well, I felt, Kurt, I can't speak for all of the faithful, but for this one faithful, so-called faithful, I felt bitter. I,
Hmm.
I felt bitter. I was, yeah, I had been thinking, Kurt, about what you had said earlier about the Oilers not being able to defend well against bad teams. And in this game, the grade A shots were 15 to 14 for Nashville, with the subset of five alarm shots, 8-8. And to me, like you've got to be able to, if the Oilers are playing well, they're limiting Nashville to like at most 12 grade A shots, probably closer to 10, and like five or six five alarm shots. They just, their lineup was discombobulated, and we will get into that later.
Yes, we will.
But this 4-3 loss is really indicative of how far this team has to go. And I hope we're not saying this a month from now or 2 months from now, or let's say in late April.
You know what? I think your analysis is fair. I guess maybe this is me with my Oilers colored glasses on, but it was the second of back-to-backs. You got 3 to 4 points on the road trip. Usually you'll take that every day of the week and twice on Sundays. But I'm with you. There are still details in this team's game that need to be locked down because they just ain't yet.
Kurt, let's get at it. Two good things, two bad things, and two numbers. What is your good thing?
My good thing's Jake Wallman. When you bring a guy like Jake Wallman back into the lineup, it's going to float all boats, and it's going to put the other members of the D-Corps in probably what are their proper spots in the batting order. In this case, Alec Regula, who I think at this point in his career is 6'7", maybe he'll end up more. But you know what? If he and Spencer Stastny end up trading back and forth, for the next 2 months, I think I'm okay with that. But Jake Wallman, I thought really elevated, the whole blue line tonight. Played just shy of 18 minutes. He was a little rusty at first, and I guess after a long layoff like that, that's to be expected. But I thought, there was one shift in the first period, and from that point on, I thought his game was excellent, and it was the double block shift. It was the block shot shift, and then the Nashville 2-on-1, and technically not a block shot because it was a pass that was going into the slot, but Wallman goes down again and gets his shin pad on the puck and deflects it away. Threat over. And here's where I'll remind everybody that Wallman was out because he had a fracture in his leg. So, to go down and to eat two pucks early like that shows what kind of a guy he's made of. I think people were taking some liberties with Jake Wallman while he was out and forgetting just how good of a defenseman this guy is. He's a legit top four defenseman in my mind, and we saw that over the Stanley Cup playoffs last season. So welcome back, Jake Wallman. David is right. There are defensive details that still need to be drilled down on this team, but having Wallman back in your lineup will help cover up some of those.
The only liberty that I heard about Wallman is, well, he didn't play well when he played this year. Like, he had a few good games, and then he was not playing well because he was playing hurt, I think.
He was hurt. Exactly.
And then he got even hurt worse. So, but the only thing I really heard, there might have been people who were kind of making that the overall assessment of Jake Wallman, that short span of games, when he had been really good in the playoffs last year. He had been good to great for the Oilers, like a real top four D-man who got the job done. So that was forgotten from some people, just like they seem to forget, that Evan Bouchard's a good player too now and then, based on his playoff play. But I didn't think I was super impressed, Kurt, with that block shot. The only moment I thought he was rusty was early in the game. 3 minutes in, they scored their first goal. And it's really, he's not the main culprit on the play.
Giovanni.
But as they're rushing up the ice, Nashville, he's hustling back, and he goes by the net a little bit.
He does.
And then he's just standing watching as Stamkos sizes up the play and eventually fakes a pass and puts in the shot and catches Jari off the post. And Wallman could, like a playoff Jake Wallman, the guy we saw at the peak of his game, wouldn't have gone past, would have stopped more centrally in front of the net, and would have got on Stamkos blocking the passing lane. So then Jari wouldn't have come off the post because he wouldn't have worried about, there'd be a defenseman in front to block that pass. So I thought he was rusty on that play, but other than that, I didn't notice any real rust on his game. I thought he was pretty good, not bad at all.
Your good thing.
My good thing. Well, Leon Draisaitl had another big night in Nashville, a goal and 2 assists. And
what else is new, hey?
He was the best Oiler I thought by far on the night.
Agreed.
I didn't maybe at the end of the podcast we'll just devote a little section to the OT goal and Tristan Jarry's play, because it's not going to come up in our 2 good things, bad things. But I thought the only thing Leon did wrong was on the overtime goal. But other than that, man, he had a great game. And he there was the 2 great shots on the power play where he lashes the puck on net. And one of them hits the post and Hyman puts it in. Actually, the other one was the great shot was at even strength, and it's this line that we've talked about. And Kurt, I'm a hopeful Oiler fan about this line.
Mm-hmm.
They have impressed the hell out of me, and on that goal, it was exactly what I want to see from that line. It was those 2 big rugged wingers going in there, winning the puck. Podkolzin gets it on his stick, puts it over to Kapanen. Kapanen moves out towards the blue line a little bit and sifts it over to Draisaitl, who just hammers it in. That's the play I want to see again and again and again from that line, and I think we will. It seems like the Oilers' lines still are like out of sync. It's not regular, their line play to me. You want to roll those lines, and you want to see that line especially. And the McDavid line start rolling, get out there in a rhythm and get going. And I think when that happens, we'll see the best of them. But Draisaitl's made to play. Those 2 players are kind of made to play with Leon Draisaitl. And I can't remember who said this on Twitter today or Twitter X, but it was essentially that, usually a great player needs to play with a passer or a shooter. But because Draisaitl is both a passer and a shooter, he can play with 2 guys who can go get the puck. And that works. And, as the great Scotty Bowman said, when you get great players, what should happen is the players who play with them get better.
Yes.
Those great players get better, but then the other players get better too. That's the dynamic of a team that goes to the Stanley Cup final. That's what has to happen with the Oilers. We are seeing it with Kapanen and Podkolzin. Because Leon Draisaitl's getting better, they're getting better. And because Leon Draisaitl's so great, they're getting to be a little bit great too now and then. It's rubbing off, and they're all playing that way, and it's the best development. In terms of what you'd want to see in a season where, now teams have to kind of come together in the salary cap era as the season goes on and figure things out. There's no dominant teams anymore. Maybe Colorado this year, but there really isn't, and they're all kind of trying to figure it out and come together. They're going through rough patches. So for a good news story in January, the fact that your first line it got going in December, you figured that out. And now in January, the second line has figured it out. That is, if you're looking for a bright side of the Edmonton Oilers, I think that's it.
Yeah, Leon Draisaitl, goal, 2 assists, 3 points tonight. He was 53% on faceoffs, 5 on 5, 18 and 10, 64% CF at natural stat trick. Really a terrific game from him. Kapanen has just been on fire. It's like usually you expect rust when a guy comes back. He's been excellent from the first shift ever since he's come back from injury. And I was thinking about Podkolzin tonight. He does not quit on any shift or any puck, right? He is hard on pucks. He's hard on his man. He'll make the odd mistake. These guys are humans. That's going to happen. But man, the drive and the effort that this guy puts into every shift and practically every stride that he takes is just, it's so easy to be a fan of watching him play. And I agree with you. There's obvious chemistry between the 3 of those guys. And I thought they were the best line for the Oilers in the previous game. And I thought by far and away 5 on 5, they were the best line for the Oilers tonight.
And they will get in sync. They're already in sync in the offensive zone. They will get more in sync in the defensive zone too, as they work together as a group of players. And I think we're going to criticize Knobloch in a moment, but I think that's what he's working towards. Obviously, any coach is four lines that are in sync in the defensive zone, and then whatever, like, they have their attacking abilities as well, but you got to get them in sync in the defensive zone, and this line will come together, I think, and get that done. All right, yeah, Draisaitl was in on 11 grade A shots, 6 at even strength, 5 on the power play. So 11 of the 15 or the 14 grade A shots that the Oilers were created, Leon Draisaitl was in the middle of them. So that's a pretty dominating, significant performance. And he only made one mistake on a grade A shot against at even strength. That was the overtime goal. All right, and we'll debate that, Kurt, if you want later on. But what's your bad thing?
Well, instead, let's debate this. I agree with you. That's what Chris Knobloch should be wanting to do. And if he would just quit dicking with lines that are working, he might get there faster. I'm sorry, I'm a Chris Knobloch fan. I think the people that call for him to be fired are silly. Like, come on, get real. The guy's been to 2 Stanley Cup finals with this club. Let's be real. But there are times where I just shake my head and go, what are you doing? And to be fair, we're not behind the scenes. We don't know what discussions are being had with who about what. When I heard that Ike Howard was coming into the lineup tonight, I thought, oh, okay, that makes sense. He's coming in for Mangiapane. Nope. He was coming in for Curtis Lazar. Curtis Lazar, the center of the fourth line that for the last 2 games us and everybody else have been raving, hey, the Oilers finally have a fourth line. And that fourth line was terrific in Chicago. And Curtis Lazar in particular was good in that game. I remember I graded him a 7 in that game, which I think is his highest grade of the year. And instead, he pulls Lazar out of the lineup for Andrew Mangiapane. It picks my butt, Dave. This is the second time Chris has done this. Noah Philp was first star of the bloody game early on in the season, and then he got healthy scratch the next game. Like, I'm sorry. In what world do you think that's smart? And we saw the results. You went from 2 games where there was a fourth line. You could rely on them, man. They weren't only responsible in their own zone, but they had substantial offensive time as well. Bob's your uncle. We've got a fourth line. No, let's throw it out and see how it does. Well, Dave, how did it go?
Kurt, I'm still getting over picks my butt. I haven't heard that particular vernacular.
How can you tell I'm a child of the 60s and 70s? Hey?
Blistering barnacles. It was a terrible move. It was appalling, Kurt.
Unfathomable.
It was. I was thinking, is he hurt? Because it's the only thing that would have justified taking Curtis Lazar out. He's played his best hockey of the year. They have a fourth line that is working. What are you doing? You won the game. Okay, if there's some reason it's Father's Doodad Day and you got to have Ike Howard in the lineup, okay,
fine.
Take out Andrew Mangiapane, who didn't play well in the game that he got into. And then he played worse tonight. So it's like, it was so frustrating, Kurt. It was so profoundly frustrating to see a coach mess with success. Never do that. And
it's difficult to watch him. It's difficult to watch him get in his own way, isn't it?
And Frederick, he played so well against Chicago, and then tonight, like, they were just he was bad again. Like, he was iffy again. And
he had a couple really good hits, but that was really it. And I think we all agreed the previous game was his best game of the season.
It was his best game of the season. Build on it, man. Build on that
with Curtis Lazar.
Build on that momentum. Let's see if you can make it happen again. Wouldn't that be great for Trent Frederick to actually have 2 good games in a row? Like, why don't you So okay.
I actually went back and listened to the interview twice because I thought maybe I heard it wrong. I thought, no, that can't be that Mangiapane's staying in and that's Lazar's coming up. That can't be right.
Oh, what a cock up. Anyway, he doesn't do it that much. He's done it a few times, like when Noah Phillips scored the big goal and had a really good game. He did it then, and he's maybe a few other times, but that wasn't good. So
No.
then, okay, then he keeps Andrew Mangiapane in, and he puts Ike Howard in, and they proceed to have the worst games of any Oilers forwards.
Yep.
Well done, coach. So Ike Howard is, of course, because Ike Howard is a fourth line player, right? That's his strength. He is put on the fourth line. And his turnover on the third goal, it's a tough. I think he was actually thinking that the player beside him might go get it, or so. Like he might have thought he was kind of pushing it ahead for someone else. Anyway, it's a turnover in the defensive zone slot, goes right to the other team, and in a moment later, it's in the net. It is just it was just a really rough justice for players bobble the puck now and then, but he needed to make sure with the puck in the defensive slot to get it out there, and it was his worst game as an Oiler. It's a tough moment for him. This is the NHL. Welcome to the NHL, and you gotta live through these things and keep at it. Mangiapane on the first goal against, he gets a pass, and I'm always looking, you know, there's a notion with NHL players, if it's anywhere near them, they should control the puck. Like that's what an NHL player does. If it's in their skates, they still control it. If it's a little bit behind them, they still figure out a way. Like that's what makes an NHL hockey player.
Game's all about possession. Yep.
And there was he just I think he actually when I watched it a number of times to figure out like why did Mangiapane give away the puck at the offensive blue line when he got that pass? Was it a bad pass? Because sometimes in my grading system, Kurt, if I think it's a bad pass, like into his skates, for instance, I'll blame both players.
Yeah.
But I didn't blame the player who passed it to him. I thought that was a pass where he just wasn't set, where he wasn't right and he wasn't ready and he just muffed it. And because of that, there's a turnover and there's a breakaway with Steven Stamkos. I think it was who's charging up the ice. Was that Stamkos charging up the ice on the breakaway?
Yes.
Um,
And the hell of it was Stastny caught him.
He did.
Right?
Yeah. Terrible. It was a tough mistake. And, Frederick made a similar mistake at the blue line, and they were off to the races in the third period. So Howard put it into Frederick's skates, and Frederick couldn't handle it, and it's off for a break chance. Like these players are just in the middle of all kinds of badness. Maybe none of that happens. Probably, Kurt. Probably none of it happens. This is why we're so mad, because you put Curtis Lazar, who was the straw stirring the drink on the fourth line, who was the guy who was he's the center, right? Everything revolves around him. He was anyway.
Just to put a candle on this cake. After the Howard turnover, he missed a couple shifts. I got to tell you, it takes some mighty big stones for a coach to make a lineup mistake as big as his and then penalize the rookie for the giveaway. You donkey, you put him in that position in the first place. I'm so pissed off at him tonight. It's beyond words.
Yeah, he gets a 2.
Yeah.
A 2.
People always want us to grade the coach, right?
Yeah. There's sometimes there's very little there's very, the coaches have in some ways, they have an unknowable impact for us, right? The only thing we can really judge is the lineup changes, like the lineup. We could grade the lineup, I guess, every night, but you can't grade the coach because we don't know there's so much that the coach does that's not part of what's seen on the ice.
If I'm being generous and giving him the benefit of the doubt, maybe he had a meeting with Stan Bowman and Bowman goes, "We're trying to deal this guy. We've got to show the other teams he can play."
Well, that's why he got in initially.
No, I don't think that's true. I think he got in because his dad's on the trip, and I'm okay with that. You are a bad organization if you take a kid's father on the dad's trip and you don't put the kid in the lineup. I think that's the only reason Mangiapane played the first game. Tonight, what other reason could have there possibly been other than Chris just lost his mind? Is it Stan Bowman is in his ear on this one? I don't know. That's complete supposition on my part. I'm not there. I don't know. But why else would you do it?
Are we going to see Mangiapane on the third line until he's traded? I mean, oh man, he's better start playing better.
The reason he is on the block is because he hasn't been.
I know. And the reason he's still on the block. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I heard Elliot Friedman today on Oilers Now saying, that he thinks, he's not sure about the timing, but he does think he can be moved. So,
you know what? I was talking with a very learned friend of mine, and I don't have his permission to share this. So I won't say who it was, but a very learned friend of mine said, "What are they waiting for? If you can get a roll of tape for him, do it now. Move him off your roster. Save the cap space. Who cares what you get in return?"
Oh, I don't think that's it, Kurt. Do you? Do you think there's? I think Stan Bowman, if he could move him out for nothing, he'd move him out for nothing now. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is teams are looking for a little,
Well, look, I'll
a draft pick to take on that second year of the contract.
I'll grant you this. Other general managers, when your boat is sinking, they don't throw you a life jacket; they throw you an anchor. That's absolutely true.
The good news is there's lots of GMs whose boats are sinking right now who need forwards. So he'll go from one sinking, this boat's not sinking, but he will go to a sinking boat.
Yeah. And look, I don't have a hate on for Andrew Mangiapane. It just didn't work out here. But
and he's played well defensively, except for that turnover. It's probably his worst mistake of the year. Yeah. Like it really was. So, and that'll happen now and then to hockey players, right? Turnovers at the blue line. You handle the puck enough. I mean, how many times has Leon Draisaitl turned over the puck at the blue line this year? It's just like if you handle the puck enough at the blue line, you will turn it over. So
I know you say he's played well defensively, Dave, but at one point he was minus 17.
Yeah, he's been out there for a lot of goals against. That's a fact. Yep. I don't think he's to blame for a high number of those goals against. But you'd have to go over the videotape to prove. People have to see that for themselves. I think he's been okay. The problem is he can't attack at that level that he's needed to attack at.
There were whispers before the Oilers signed him that he lost a step, and that was part of the problem in Washington.
Yeah. Interestingly, his NHL edge numbers for speed didn't go down until this year. They were the same in Washington last year as they'd been previously.
Interesting.
If I recall correctly. All right. Where are we, Kurt? Numbers. What's your number?
27. In the last 20 games against the Nashville Predators, Leon Draisaitl has 27 goals. It's just insane. That's a good season. That's a hell of a good NHL season for most players. And he scored it in 20 regular season games against Nashville.
Indeed. What a player.
Yep.
What a player. Kurt, my number is -6. It's actually 6 times 2. Both Evan Bouchard and Spencer Stastny, according to my review of the game, made 6 major mistakes on grade A shots against at even strength. A defenseman, if he's playing okay, will 1 or 2, and you get to 3 or 4, that's not good. If you make 6, you're struggling out there. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see Bouchard or Stastny well at all on defense. They just were not getting the job done. And it'll be interesting to see what happens between Regula and Stastny. Emerson's the right shot guy, and he's not ready to play in the top 4. So it seems like in some ways the battle would be between Regula and Stastny. Between Regula and Emerson. But
Stastny has a history of playing on the offside, right?
Yeah, but then there's 3 guys battling on the right side. So he's actually in a better position being on the left side because that's where they're in terms of having 7 D-men, they have 3 left shot guys and 4. Well, with Wallman they have 4 right shot guys because I'm counting Wallman as a right shot guy. But we'll see where they play Wallman in the end if they play him on his offside or not.
Well, Wallman primarily played the left side tonight, and Stastny seriously got faded as this game went on. If you look at the ice time, Bouchard 27 minutes, Ekholm and Nurse 21, Emberson 19, Wallman 17, Stastny 13 and change.
Well, Stastny made it, by my count, four of the six mistakes came in the third period, and I'm not surprised if they didn't play him at all after the 6:17 mark when he made his last one, because he was really struggling out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens. And Bouchard has his critics of his defense tonight. He had a fairly rough game. He might have on the power play goal taken the rebound shooter, possibly, if he gotten over there. Let me see if I have him making any other mistakes on goals against. Well,
wasn't technically a power play goal, right? Because
that was a power play goal, yeah.
Because Kappen was out of the box, so
that was it. Yeah. The technically an even strength goal, but
yes,
essentially a power play goal.
It was. He was not. Kappen was not back in the play. That's correct.
With our counting of grade A shots, we've always counted plays like that to be power play plays, even though it happened at even strength. If the player hasn't had time to regain the play, it's a power play situation still. So
in the moment, that's perfectly fair. I get that. Yeah.
Bouchard's other mistake, I think, came in overtime, and I'd like to hear what you think about it, Kurt. But I think all four players made a mistake on that goal. They had all been out there. They had really excellent possession in the offensive zone, but they were also getting tired. They were getting, I don't know how long they had been on the ice. Let me see if I can quickly check. But they had been out on the ice for a while, and they had been moving around for a while. And McDavid does what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to try to create something, but I think he forced it. I think they were getting tired of moving the puck around the perimeter, and he went into the middle of the ice. I mean, he makes that move sometimes and scores, though, so it's hard to tell. My main issue was how long they've been on the ice. And maybe it's time to have the notion that you should get off the ice. So he turns over the puck, and it's lobbed down the ice. And Evan Bouchard, who is don't think quite as tired as the other ones, but he's been out there for a while too. Let me just see. Bouchard, that shift was 132 for Bouchard. And let me go to McDavid. He's right at the end. 131 for McDavid. 131 is a pretty long time to be out on the ice. Now, I know a lot of it is skating, like not under pressure in the offensive end, but it's still a long time to be on the ice in the NHL, 131. So Draisaitl, Bouchard is a little slow to get back. The lob goes over his head, and the puck goes to Jari, who is right to come out of the net and try to make a play. He doesn't make a forceful enough play with the puck. And it goes right to a Predator player. And the reason that Predator player is so wide open is because Leon Draisaitl is too gassed to have back checked. If you watch the play, he's just skating back slowly through this neutral zone, hoping it goes well. And it didn't go well. The puck, the guy he should be covering gets the puck, puts it into the corner to Yossi, and Yossi slams it in the net. And Bouchard's kind of wandering in the red light zone as the puck goes in. So I see. And Jari's also flubbed up. So I'll see all four players with a little bit of a mistake on that one. Nothing egregious, because it's a kind of a strange situation at the end of a road trip and they're tired and stuff, but not a great, I didn't like that goal against at all.
As I give you my response, do me a favor and look up, since you have the shift times out, look at Roman Yossi's shift length on that shift.
Well, they're out there a while too because they're defending.
This is going to be my point. Yeah.
Do you get I think though, Kurt, when players get the puck, when they get a chance to score, there's a sudden burst of adrenaline.
I think they're just as tired.
That kicks in.
Yeah, it just like I think that a 90-second shift.
The OCs, I have the Oilers up. Let me see if I can find the.
Yeah. Go ahead. It's I hear what you're saying. The way I look at it. When Evan Bouchard, Leon Draisaitl, and Connor McDavid have the puck in Nashville's end, they ain't coming off the ice in overtime, because that is your first, second, and third best chances to win the game. And if ultimately the puck ends up going the other way and they score, they score. The other guys have beaten your best. And they had Nashville on the run in that zone for 90 seconds. Was Draisaitl late to that, man? He absolutely was. Jari won that race to the puck, but he put the puck in the wrong spot. He absolutely did. Uh, McDavid, did he turn over that puck? He absolutely did. The guy who I actually have the most time for in the play is Evan Bouchard. That's a tough damn play, man. That's like you're a center fielder and the ball's been hit over your head. So I don't disagree with your premise that all four guys made a small error on the play, and those combined probably led to the goal. But I don't think you handled it any differently. If you ask Chris Knobloch, these guys have been out there for 90 seconds, but the puck's in their zone. Who do you want on the ice? He'll say the same three guys. And God forbid you change out Knobloch and put me behind the bench. I'd say the same thing.
So Yossi Kurt had been out for 153,
See?
which proves your point, but here's my point.
Okay.
The guy who rushed up the ice, beat Draisaitl up the ice, had been out for 41 seconds, Nick Blankenberg. They had shifted off a guy, and he was the fresh guy on the ice, and he's the one who had the burst to go win that puck on the forecheck.
But it was Draisaitl that started from behind on the play, right?
They're both.
He had further to go.
I think they're both in the same spot initially.
I thought Draisaitl was deep.
I'll have to check that.
Yeah.
Could be.
So anyway, that's my take. I don't disagree with your premise, but I think given the same situation, you're still leaving those three guys out on the ice.
I would hope. There was a time about 3 or 4 years ago when the Oilers lost a whole batch of overtime games because Draisaitl and McDavid stayed on the ice too long. And it was happening consistently on the first shift, and it happened probably 4 or 5 times that year. Actually, I would hope that your best players would have that in the game situation and their own level of fatigue in mind. And if it's starting to get past a minute, that they're starting to really think about getting off the ice and finding a moment to do that. And I think they could have, we saw Nashville shoot the puck. They would come down at the Oilers' end, miss a shot, and they would immediately fire it back to their end. And they did it a couple times. Smart strategy for overtime, because then you can get a change, you can get a rest. And I know it's not necessarily in their DNA, but just because they're the greatest attacking players doesn't mean after a minute 20 on the ice, they're still the greatest attacking players.
See, I'll debate you on that too. Nashville's doing that because they don't have any players that are approaching the quality of McDavid and Draisaitl. So of course you're not going to attack the same way.
No, that is true too. It's a different strategy. I just think, Connor McDavid in the first, and certainly Draisaitl in the first 50 seconds of a shift is completely different. It's a different player than after they've been on a minute on the ice. McDavid maybe less than Draisaitl, but Draisaitl really gets tired. I've noticed as these shifts go on. That said, Kurt, he has scored goals after he's been out there like a minute 10, minute 20, minute 30 in overtime. But it would be interesting. Here's what would settle this, Kurt. If we took Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid after 1 minute of overtime, what is their goals for and goals against record in all the years that they've played in the NHL? What is that in overtime? That would be interesting to know, because I have a feeling it ain't good, but maybe I'm incorrect. I could be incorrect about that.
Yeah, I'll end on this point. I'll have my best players on the ice. Thank you very much. Now I will point out, because remember the previous overtime game, I said why didn't Jack Roslovic play? This guy has 2 overtime winners, and Roslovic did get a shift in overtime tonight. So Chris didn't get it all wrong.
Roslovic he's good with the puck.
He is. He's slick.
Really slick, isn't he? He's a really it's too, in some ways it's too bad he's not playing with Draisaitl and Podkolzin, because that line was really clicking on the attack.
Yeah.
And he worked in a different way. Although I like the style of, I think it's more playoff friendly, the style with Kapanen and Podkolzin. But they've got to find some players to play with Roslovic. And I'm not sure it's Matt Savoy and Ike Howard. I think it might be one of them, and then a different center, but I'm not sure.
Well, I agree, because his offense hasn't been quite the same the last little while. And on one hand, you may go, well, yeah, it's because he's been coming back from an injury and from surgery, and that's fair enough. But keep in mind, he's also playing center, where there's a whole lot more demand on your time. And you cannot play as free at center as you do on the wing. You just can't. especially Roslovic, who's not, in quotes, a natural center. So I think you can argue that by having him at 3C right now, you're actually taking a bullet out of his chamber.
I think Roslovic, he was probably a center the entire time he came up through minor hockey and college and stuff. And he was that center who just always had the puck on his stick.
Yep.
And it's hard then in the NHL when you're not that center. The puck's on your stick a lot less, and then you have to learn how to play that position without the puck on your stick. And it takes
a lot of the best forwards were centers when they were kids.
Oh yeah, because, almost all of them, right? So and it takes them. They can go to the wing where it's a lot simpler. But if they're going to stay at center, like how many players have we seen struggle? Sam Gagner comes to mind, like his struggles on defense as a center with the Oilers. He was always a pretty good attacker, but man, he was constantly on the wrong side of the puck as a center.
Yeah.
And
look, my brother, who's a very good junior hockey player, was a center his entire life as a kid until he got into major junior hockey, and then he became a winger. It just happens, right? So.
What's your brother's name, Kurt?
Glenn Leavins.
Who did he play with in
the Swift Current Broncos? In 1979, he set the league record for goals in a season with 61 goals in 60 games. 1979-80.
The Saskatchewan SJHL. Played with Lane Lambert.
Yes, he did. Lane was a center. We've known Lane and his brother Ross since they were kids.
Where's Lane coaching this year? And Mark Lamb was on that team.
Yes, he was. Lane's in Seattle, of course, and I think Ross is scouting now. So Ross was not nearly as big as Lane was, but just had this unquenchable fire burning in him. Ross, when Ross went to play for the Saskatoon Blades after he was in Swift Current, he talked them into listing him in the program at 5'11". Like Ross was 5'6". But anything Ross could do to convince the scouts that he should get a shot at pro hockey, like Ross was one in a million, a great guy, as was Lane. The Lamberts they're really good people. So
cool. How old was your brother on that team? Do you know, Kurt?
He was
age is not listed.
He was 18 the year that he set the record.
Cool. Alrighty. Have we covered the territory, Kurt? Anything you'd like to add?
I'm a little less mad now than it was at the start of the podcast. I guess very, very briefly, it looks like the Oilers are going to carry 3 goaltenders at least for a little while. But there's only 5 days left that Ingram can be on the roster and still be waiver exempt. So we'll see what they ultimately do with that. But I believe in the short term they're going to go with 3.
What do you think they'll do? To me, the tell was turning Ingram into a full-time roster player, which means to go back to the minors now he has to clear waivers.
He doesn't yet, though. He does not yet. He has
5 days from now.
5 days.
He will have to clear. Are you sure it hasn't happened already? I know
it has not. I am positive of that. It has not happened yet.
So they still have 5 days to make up their mind about that.
Yes, they do. I think it would be the prudent thing to do. Here's why they might not, though. The AHL isn't the NHL, and I know, gee, Leavins, thanks for stating the obvious. But defensive play in the American Hockey League is scrambly. And if you have spent all of this time investing in Connor Ingram to build his confidence back up to being an NHL goaltender again, and I think it's fair to say to this point they have, then is it the best thing for him to put him back in the AHL where the Condors' best 2 defensemen are hurt right now? Like, as fun as the Condors are to watch, they're a bit of a tire fire on the back end, right? And maybe that's not the situation you want this goaltender to be in. So I'm not 100% sure what they'll do, except that I'm sure for the next few days they're fine roster and salary wise. They can keep 3.
Kevin Woodley, who's a goalie expert, made this point on a podcast today, and the same point that you're making. And he said that the reason this is a specific issue with Connor Ingram is that in his view, Connor Ingram is an elite reader of the game. It's one of his real strengths in hockey, is that he reads the play so well. So when he's in the NHL, it's more predictable than in the AHL, which is a more chaotic game. So
I
that's
I
why it's a particular issue for Ingram, which I thought was
Yep.
interesting. I
I
hadn't heard
totally
that
buy that.
before.
And Kevin Woodley is very smart when it comes to goaltenders.
He
So
is very smart.
yeah.
Him and Steve Valiquette, like there's a couple people that are just amazing when they talk about the
Valaket I
goaltending.
don't follow. Woodley I do. So
Yeah, Valiquette is on the Kiprios and Bourne podcast
oh, okay.
once a week. He's the New York. He's with MSN MSG. He played, I think, one game with the Oilers. Steve Valiquette. He
I
was with
knew
the Rangers for a
I
while.
knew Bourne's dad really well. It's my I was talking about my brothers. They used to play bantam and midget hockey against Bob Bourne.
Now there was a hell of a hockey player,
Yes, who
Bobby
could
Bourne.
skate like the wind, Bobby Bourne.
Could
He was a
he ever?
good player.
Yeah. Kurt, thanks for talking tonight.
It was fun. Thanks.
And thanks to all the listeners, the wisest, smartest, sanest hockey fans in the world. And in the meantime, and in between time, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.